Hi guys, it's me, Mr. Bertosh, your incredibly handsome science teacher. In this video, we are going to be learning a little bit better way to do the yellow cross. When you learned to solve the Rubik's Cube, or in other words, a speed cube, the first time using beginner's method, you probably learned an algorithm, a single algorithm for solving the yellow cross, which is the first step of solving the top layer of OLL, orienting the last layer. And more than likely, that algorithm, unless you got lucky, took you, 2 or 3 tries to get it completely solved where you had the yellow cross, maybe even 4 tries. And that's not the best way to do it, because anytime that you are having to do extra turns or extra algorithms, it's going to slow you down. So it's better to learn multiple algorithms and then to apply the correct algorithm depending on which state of the yellow cross you start with, whether you just have the yellow dot or an L or a straight line, and learn to recognize the patterns and then be able to apply just one algorithm to get from whatever you start with to a completed yellow cross. That's going to save you a lot of time because that's less turning, but it requires some memorization. So in this video, I'm going to be going through 3 different algorithms, and actually it's kind of 2 with the third algorithm is just the 2 algorithms put together. So we're kind of cheating there, but 3 different algorithms, we shall call them, which will take you from whatever state you start with and give you a totally solved yellow cross. Now, before we do that, I want to just say something about the difference between 2-look last layer versus 4-look last layer. So in this video, we're going to be the yellow cross is something you do for 4-look last layer, which ultimately requires a total of 4 algorithms to, it requires you to do 4 algorithms. You have to memorize more than 4 because it depends on which different scenarios you run into, which one you'll do, which 4 algorithms you'll select. But you'll complete 4 algorithms as you do a solve in order to get a totally solved last layer. That is 4-look last layer. Okay, this is different than 2-look last layer. 2-look last layer requires you to only do 2 algorithms in order to solve the cube. One for OLL, which gives you a yellow top, and one for PLL, which gets the sides all oriented correctly. Well, obviously 2 algorithms is better than 4 because you're doing less. So why aren't we starting with 2-look last layer? And the answer is 4-look last layer is a good intermediate step between beginner's method and completely mastering CFOP. In order to do 2-look last layer, you're going to have to memorize a bunch of algorithms. You're going to have to know a bunch of algorithms for OLL and a bunch of algorithms for PLL. It's like 57 and 21. Okay, and that's a lot of algorithms to have to learn. So whereas with 4-look last layer, we can solve it using memorizing 3 algorithms for the yellow cross, 6 algorithms to get a completely yellow top, and then just I got to think through this. A couple of algorithms to get the first part of PLL, and then 3 final algorithms to get the second part of PLL. So it's a lot less algorithms that we have to learn for 4 Laplace layer versus 2 Laplace layer. So ultimately, you are going to want to continue on to 2 Laplace layer, but this is not wasted. Your time is not wasted because everything you learn, all of the algorithms you learn for 4 Laplace layer, you're also going to learn for 2 Laplace layer because you run into the same scenario. So memorizing these algorithms isn't wasted. And you already know several of these from beginner's method. So it's not a huge leap. So this is a good intermediate place, a good place to get you a stepping stone from beginner's method to advanced method. The first scenario that you may run into is this kind of a thing where you have an L, and it doesn't really matter how it's oriented because you can obviously turn the top to get it how you want it. Okay, to get the yellow cross from an L, I need to put the L in the upper left corner, and then I'm going to do an algorithm which I like to call fur-erf. And I always imagine like a furry woodland creature prancing around. So fur-erf. And you may know this algorithm already from beginner's method, depending on which algorithm you were taught to solve the yellow cross in beginner's method. But this is a very common one. So fur-erf is F, U, R, U prime, R prime, F prime. And it looks like this. Okay, F, U, R, U prime, R prime, F prime. And notice that gave me a yellow cross. In beginner's method, you probably learn to repeat that same algorithm over and over again until you ended up with a completed yellow cross. And that's fine, that works, but it also takes a lot of extra steps because we're doing fur until you have a yellow cross. Well, if we just change the algorithm slightly, then we can go from, instead of having to do this fur-erf and then fur-erf again, we can go from this stage or this scenario with a minus sign, a yellow minus sign, to a yellow cross in a single algorithm. And the algorithm to do that is F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. So it looks kind of like this. F, okay, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. And notice in one single algorithm, I have solved the yellow cross. When I have just a single dot, just the yellow centerpiece, and we're ignoring these two pieces, they are yellow, but they're corner pieces. We're just looking for edge pieces for the yellow cross. So I don't have any of the 4 yellow edge pieces in place. Then I'm going to do a slightly longer algorithm, and it's actually the 2 algorithms we just learned combined into one, okay, with something in between them. So it's F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime, and then U2, and then F, U, R, U prime, R prime, F prime. Okay, and so it's going to look like this. So I'm doing F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime, U2, F, U, R, U prime, R prime, F prime. Okay, and that gave me the yellow cross in a single algorithm. Now, I just want to point one more thing out really quickly that you may not have noticed or caught. Okay, let's put these 2 algorithms in parentheses a little bit so you can see something here. So let's start with fur, F-U-R, U prime, R prime, F prime. Notice that when I put it in parentheses, it actually just becomes reverse sexy with an F in front of it and an F prime behind it. And this is helpful because if you practice, and I would highly encourage you to practice this trigger, if you practice it, then it becomes something you don't really have. This is hard for me to do in reverse, but you don't really have to think about. You can just do, see, all I did was a F and then a quick reverse sexy, and then restored it with an F prime. Same goes for F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. If I put parentheses around the middle part, then you'll notice that it's just a sexy move. Okay, so it's just the sexy move. And that's going to help you become a much, much quicker solver, because then I'm not having to think, okay, F, U, R, U, R, F in my head, or F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. All I'm having to do is think, okay, F, sexy move, F prime, or F, reverse sexy, F prime. And I get a corrected or correctly done cross each time. Well, hello. Thank you for watching my one-take rambling science video where I talk a lot and try to do as few and usually no edits whatsoever. So you hear all my ums and my awkward pauses as I try to collect my thoughts into my head. If you like learning about science, do me a favor. I have classes that I teach over on outschool.com, and you can find out about these classes by going to my website, which is Handsome Science Teacher, because I mean, look at this face, handsomescienceteacher.com, where you can sign up and get access to not only these videos, because you already have access to those, right? They're free, but also access to packets that go along with them and live conferences with me, where I teach you and grade your work and we learn together. I have an entire science curriculum from 5th through 8th grade science. Also, you are welcome to, if you would like to subscribe to my channel. That helps me too, just because it gets the word out about me.